Hi, Judy.
Lisa, it's so good to see you. Another green
It's good to see
glasses
you too.
day. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. They are my thing these days.
Yeah, they look really good on you. I know mine are boring, but they're prescription. So I'm not going to buy 10 pairs of prescription glasses, even though I like when you change them off. So
Well, I only
it's
change out my glasses now when I can't find them.
oh, your dad used to have that problem. We sent
And
him
it,
home at lunchtime when we had the furniture store, and he looked in his recliner, and I think he came back to work with 7 pairs.
no doubt. And what's happening to me is I'm getting older and my eyes are getting, I don't know how they're getting worse exactly. Last time I went to the eye doctor, they said that I didn't need regular glasses, but my prescription for my, or my numbers for my readers was going higher. And
Mm-hmm.
they said, that's hard because I'm in that in between stage. But the
Yeah, you
thing that
need
I
more
noticed,
magnification.
yeah, I hate not being able to see what I eat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think if I don't wear my glasses, whatever I'm eating doesn't look crisp. It looks fuzzy. Isn't that awful? I hate that. I don't like not being able to see
I
what I
never
eat.
thought about that. The thing with me is I just always wear my glasses, so I don't notice, like things of that nature. But that's so true. I'm sure I would want to put my glasses on to eat because you never
Yeah.
know what might be in there.
Well, that's not it. I just want to see, a food can be a full experience. And well, even if it's
Right.
just macaroni and cheese, it's still I like being able to see what I'm eating for whatever reason.
That makes
So,
sense. That makes total sense.
well, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, though. So
It doesn't,
let's
I
move
know.
on.
I like our topic for today, and
Yeah.
it's so easy for me to do. It's just we're going to work on writing badly.
Yes. And how it's okay to write badly. I think lots
Yeah.
of people don't write because they are, yet I think sometimes it starts with they've been told somewhere along the line in school that they aren't, they've never gotten any kudos
Hmm.
for writing well. Or maybe they went to school with somebody who was known as a good writer and they compare themselves to that person. And it's like, yeah, they're a
Do
good
you
writer.
know I was actually told by my senior English teacher that I would never make it through college because I would flunk freshman English at the university.
Mm.
And I think if I really get strong and analytical with myself, that was a big part of my reason for not going to college. And when I went back to school at the ripe old age of 41, the first class I took
Mhm.
was
Mhm. English.
freshman English. And I did so well in it. And I thought that teacher was dangerous
Yeah.
because I could have had a degree in a profession all these years, but because she was so firm about it. I mean, we actually went through a process. I had the other English department head grade all of my papers that had to do with essay or anything
Mhm.
like that. And whoever gave me the best score, that's what I got on my grades because I almost flunked senior English in my first semester because
Wow.
she didn't like me.
And she didn't like you because
Well, first of all, I was engaged and she thought she was a spinster and she thought that was just awful. And I had long hair and I liked to put my hair up and play with it. I wore makeup. She didn't. Everything about me offended her.
hmm,
And mom even came to talk to her because dad wasn't available. Dad always did the talking. And mom came out of that interview with her and said, Judy, I don't know what to tell you. She doesn't like you. So you're just going to have to figure out something. But yeah. And so my point is, I thought that I was a terrible writer.
mhm.
And it was only, well, when did you and I work together?
That was the
Was
late 90s.
Yeah, that was after Matthew was born.
Mm-hmm.
So I
It
was
was like
in
three,
my I
early
was in my
40s.
40s before I realized that I could do that. I could, and yet I had written some pieces in other classes that I had gotten some rewards for. But you know how it is? You always remember the bad stuff. You seldom remember the good stuff.
What is it? Something like you have to hear good words. like 7 or 8 times to
Something like
equal
that.
one bad word. Yes.
And you remember it for life,
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
the story I just told you was devastating to me.
Mhm, mhm,
And it was so much fun when in my 40s I had a English teacher. She was so strong. She was very good, and she would just support me in every writing I did. She entered me in writing contests. She did all kinds of stuff. It was so cool.
mhm,
And I
mhm.
thought, wow, all these years I've thought I was just a terrible writer.
Hmm. Wow. Well, I think, you know, as I've kind of done a little research about people, um, and people who have become accomplished in authorship and in writing, um, there is a certain comfort level that some very well-known writers have with writing poorly
Hmm.
and not caring whether or not they write poorly, because I don't know why that would be. Because it's a starting point, perhaps?
Well, you said it to me earlier. It's much easier to edit a poor writing than it is to edit a blank page,
Mhm. And that's
right?
one of the quotes that I'm going to be referencing in our podcast blog, or snippet about it, is a quote by Jodi Picoult, who's
Mm-hmm.
a writer that we love to read. She
Mm-hmm.
said, "You might not write well every day, but you can always edit a bad page. You can't edit a blank page."
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I think that's so true. So that's
mhm,
a huge statement there because that says, yeah, it says it all. It's like a blank page is a blank page. There's nothing to help you with.
mhm,
But
mhm,
if you just write down your thoughts, even if they aren't maybe cohesive or in order, or maybe the phrases are run-on sentences, you can always correct that stuff.
mhm.
But
Well,
getting your thoughts out of your head and onto the paper is a requirement.
yeah. And I don't think I ever had that desire as a child or as a kid to be a writer or to be somebody who, focused on writing on my life. But when I became an adult, I developed that sense of I had something to say or something I wanted to get down on the page. And I
Mhm.
enjoyed the feeling. I enjoyed the process of doing that.
Mhm.
And it was then that I just enjoyed doing it for my own sake. It's like
Mhm.
somebody who likes to doodle just because they like to doodle. I like
Right.
to write in a journal because I like to write in a journal. It didn't
Mhm.
have any particular goal in and of itself. I just loved doing it. And then it kind of morphed. I became more of a storyteller, and I started thinking about things that happened in my life and how I could put that down in words. And it kind of developed. One of the things that probably hindered me from both in high school and in college from considering myself a writer was I had a real sense of what is it called when you put things off until the last minute?
Procrastination.
Procrastination. And so anytime I had an English class, it wasn't like my son Caden does. Caden, he has an essay that's due about something. He'll do the first paragraph today. He'll have it all planned out. He works on the second paragraph, the body. The next day, he does it all in little parts, and then he just puts it away. No pressure. And then he gives himself time to
Oh.
edit. He has time to fluff. I mean, one time he had a big project due in high school on his senior English class. He had me edit it several times. Um, he does things a little bit at a time, and how much more joyful and how less stressful that is for him. But
I
I never
envy
experienced that.
him. I envy him. I'm just the
Never.
opposite.
Yeah.
I was the
And
kid up all night.
then when he got a 98% on it, he got 2 points taken off. The teacher didn't tell him where he got the 2 points taken off. He was like, why did I get 2 points taken off? Because he was so good. And
Mhm.
yeah, so then he's like, that was a really good writing, and he knew it was really good. And I thought it was great.
Uh-huh.
But I never did that. So it was only after school that I started going, I like this writing thing. Um,
Mhm.
It was kind
Well,
of like
and
the same with writing or running for me. I did run a little bit in school, but I was never one of those kids that the coach or the teacher ever focused on because I wasn't one of the best.
Mhm.
but it was always something I was interested in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a never for me. I was never a runner and I never will be, but I love fast walking and, stuff
Mhm.
like that, walking the dog. Yeah, I think that for me, writing in a journal has been so interesting because I'm a person who doesn't always know exactly what I'm thinking.
Mm.
It's like I process and I hear things other people say and I kind of put that in the equation. But when I write, it's like I'm always fascinated
Mm.
with what I think because when
Oh,
you write, there it comes, there it
yeah.
is, and it's
So
all
you
put
you
together.
you don't know what you're thinking until you get it down on paper. Yeah.
That's
That's
right.
a
It's
really important way to process things. So,
Mhm.
um, just kind of getting into the meat of our conversation today. I want to kind of we're kind of getting onto the side. We're sidetracking ourselves, Judy, from what we talked about. What we were
Oh
going to
no,
talk
not
about.
that. Not
So
us.
what I want to get into, not where we've been, but how we deal with it now.
Right.
I think there are three things that I want to cover here today in our conversation. I want to
Okay.
talk about how it's good and how it feels to be a beginner at something. I want to
Mhm.
talk about having a playful attitude, and I want to get into being open to pleasant surprises because I think those are all really relevant to where our listeners and the people that follow us are probably in their writing journey, or relevant to them why they're having a problem with that blank page syndrome.
Mhm. And sometimes up until now, they haven't given themselves permission, for example, to have a beginner's mind.
Mhm.
Well, okay, maybe today is the day to say, all right, Lisa said it worked for her to be a beginner. And
Yeah.
I didn't really start writing until I was in my 40s. I mean, I wrote
Yep.
a few pieces along the way in school that were okay, but it was so fascinating because, oh, the first stuff it was pretty, I wouldn't call it awful, but it was a lot of it was boring or it was bland or it was not um maybe using redundancies and run-on sentences and all that
Mhm,
stuff.
mhm.
But it's one of those things where as a beginner,
You
at
got
least
to start somewhere.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. And then when you pick that up later and you read it over, you go, darn, that's
That's
pretty
not the worst. Yeah.
insightful. It's not so bad, you
Mhm.
know?
Well, and we've done recently so many beginners things, just starting this podcast,
Mm,
being willing to start out as a beginner. And it's interesting because this is like the third iteration of kind of where we're going with this podcast. At first we
mhm,
were doing interviewing and talking with the four of us, the four Sidetrack sisters.
mhm,
And then I totally jumped into interviewing writers and
mhm,
memoirists. And then
mhm,
we became just the you and me, just talking to people about writing. And now it's
mhm.
going to get more mixed up. We're going to have a little bit of interviews and a little bit of us. And so, if you don't have a beginning,
How do you enhance it? How do you make it
yes.
better?
And you
Now
don't
it's
have to expect to be a beginner forever, but you do have to expect to have some beginners, I don't know, problems, or expect, to be not the best writing. Um,
well,
and that's
think of
okay.
think of anything that you do now that you do well, and think about when you first started.
Mhm.
I mean, I love to water ski, but I sure remember the first day. It was not
Do
pretty.
you?
It's there's oh yeah. I even remember the song that was playing on the radio. It was "Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying" by Jerry Puckett and the Union Gap. So it was like, yeah, I mean, it was very traumatic because I was really awful. But I was a beginner,
Yeah.
and that
Mhm.
didn't last too long because my interest was strong.
Well,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And
it's
and even
okay.
just more recently, last week, I did my first Instagram, not a live, not a story, um, reel. I did my first Instagram reel.
Good for
And
you. Congratulations. Was that the one I told you I saw?
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's my first one. And it did not, I mean, it was like I watched it and it was the hardest thing to press send because it was like, oh, my face, how come I look so weird in this, and my voice, it was like I thought I was talking so slowly, and just all the different things. I was like, okay, I had already taken like 10 takes, and it was like this is my first. Will not be my last, but I have to say, um, I was doing a program one time, and the person who ran the program said that you have to be willing to do B plus work.
Mhm.
And that's something that constantly went through my mind was, okay, I think this is B plus work now. This is not A minus or A plus. This is B plus. I'm going to be able to improve from this, but I need to
Mhm.
stop now because I don't think in today's thing that I'm working on, it's going to get any better than this. I think today I'm capable of B plus work, and that's going to be okay because I'm going to continue to improve.
It's kind of like the label that you guys like to put on me. Don't overthink it. Sometimes you just have to let it go, let it be. And I mean, that's been a huge lesson for me just in the last few years that I've been back in
Mhm.
Beaver Dam and back with my sidetrack sisters is
Yep.
don't overthink it.
Yes.
You could have done 35 takes and it wouldn't have been as good as that 10th one you did and let it go. You
Yep.
know,
Mhm.
and would it be a B plus or would it be a probably yeah, who knows? Sometimes when you do them more, then you get more tired and you aren't as fresh
Yeah, and there was
yeah.
only a limited time. It was either
Right.
stop now and post it or stop now and don't post it.
Well, and you chose the right choice.
Yeah, well,
You
and
the right
now I'm able
choice.
to move on. And it's like, okay, I'm going to keep playing with it. Which brings me to the second point that I want to talk about today
Mhm.
is having a playful attitude.
Exactly.
And, that's really kind of what I'm looking at. It's like, this is fun. I mean, I love that feeling of accomplishment when
Mhm.
I learned how to do the podcast because it takes recording, it takes finding the platforms, it takes editing, it takes, right now we've just started putting things on YouTube and figuring
Mhm.
out how to do a thumbnail. And now I would like to start getting into having an intro and an outro on our YouTube. And it's like those kinds of things are something that I think kids, and teenagers, because we always say, oh, they're so technologically savvy and oh, I'm just so far behind in the game. Well, I'm just taking those little chunks and going, I can play with this part, and have fun with it.
I'm
And
jealous. I'm so jealous that you know how to do all that stuff. And here I am just reaping the rewards of your knowledge. It's wonderful. Don't ever let me go.
well, like when we did our 30-day journaling journey, I did a little intro with the four of us, yeah, a little video, and then I put it all together. And then I had music, and yet you could hear us talking. And I was like, okay, so how do you turn off all those talkings? How do we make those videos silent so that my music will play over it? And it's having a playful attitude um makes the process fun. And it's the way kids learn, and why we
Exactly.
suddenly need to feel like we need to be like experts at something or not even try it or do stuff with such seriousness. This is not a job.
I
This
think
is
generally, I mean, we could analyze it to death and I could overthink it real easily, but I think a lot of it comes from just having, instructors and people that wanted us to do things perfectly. And you don't, with technology, there's no such thing. I mean, you
Mm-mm.
can't be afraid to push the button or you're going to be screwed, right?
Yes.
So just your willingness to try it this way. Well, that didn't work. Well, let's try it this way. Oh, that was better. Let's try it this way. Oh, there we go. That's how it's supposed to be.
And I've even started to think just because I think this is awful or doesn't mean other people are going to think it's awful. There are some YouTube and podcast creators that have gajillion followers. And I look at it and I go, what?
What?
What is going on here? It's like they don't do any fluff. They take a shot and they throw it online and people eat it up. And it's like they're not stuck at all in this feeling of having to reach a certain level of expertise. They're just having fun
Mhm.
and playing. And
And
people
people love
get,
that. I
people
always
get
think of
that
Brett
sense.
Favre. Who had more fun playing football than Brett Favre? I had not really looked at that as a concept in the sport game, but I've said that to my son so many times when he's saying, "Oh, I'm just not playing well." I go, "Hey, what are you in it for? Go out there and have fun. That's what it's about. Have fun. Make sure that you're enjoying what you're doing, and the skill will come. I mean, he's got the skill, but he
You're talking
got
about
this
Matthew?
like, yeah, he
Mhm,
got this overthinking attitude that I've
mhm,
got. You know, he overthinks every shot, and if it's not perfect, and it's like, no, 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 no. Go play the sport you love and have fun doing it, and pretty soon you won't be conscious of Matthew. You'll be conscious of how well you're doing.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
I think that holds true. Is it's just have a playful attitude. If you're not having fun doing it, and like with this writing, I mean, you and I, when we sat in those restaurants and wrote on those stupid subjects, we had a ball doing that,
Mhm,
and we'd
mhm.
read them back to each other, and we'd just sit there and giggle till our food got cold. It was really pretty funny, you know.
Yeah, and and I think if people aren't having fun with their writing, that's why. I mean, writing can be hard and can be challenging, but there should be a feeling of, I don't know, accomplishment. And that maybe there's a different sense that you're looking for instead of, um,
Well,
you
that's why
know,
journaling is so much fun. There's no expectation to journaling.
yeah,
Journaling
yeah.
is just getting those thoughts from your mind to the paper, and
Mhm,
it
mhm,
doesn't have to be perfect. And yet you start reading some of the things you journaled about, and I know for me they've been ideas for things I wanted to write about for
mhm,
either the podcast or for our blog or something
mhm.
like that.
Maybe
And it's
they'll have another life in something else, is what you're saying. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. I didn't
Mhm,
expect that. I had no expectation in the journal,
mhm,
but I was able to take that and use it successfully in another area. So,
mhm,
again, have a playful attitude. I agree with you so heartily. I mean, life is too short to do things that are so serious.
mhm, mhm.
If somebody's screaming, Mom, Mom, come, come, I always said the same thing. Are you bleeding? Possibility of death? No? Okay, then get up, brush yourself off, and keep going. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's really the truth with me.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, so then our third thing we were going to talk about is being open to pleasant surprises.
Hmm.
And, I think we really have this attitude when we write as Sidetrack Sisters. So
Hmm.
I made a statement the other night. We get together. I was just going to see if I could find it and pull it out. And we have a list of all the topics that we can choose for the next month. So
Hmm.
Michelle comes up with, she lists out all the brainstorm from our free offering. If you go to sidetracksisters.com, you can sign up for our monthly writing prompt suggestions.
Hmm.
There's
One
one
for
for
every day.
every day.
Hmm.
And what we do is we take those suggestions and we vote on them, which are the four that we want to work on for the next month.
Hmm.
And I said it doesn't matter to me, which ones we ultimately pick, because I can write about anything,
Hmm.
and because I can look at it from all different angles. And what's always interesting is sometimes the ones that I did not vote for turn out to be really great writings. And I
The
find a
best
really
ones. Yep.
interesting angle, something totally, it's like, oh, what was the one that we were talking about this past week? Well, like
I,
dangerous situations.
hmm.
It's like, or
Hmm.
collections. I really don't have collections,
I don't either.
you
And I
know?
thought, oh, this is going to be a real bust. That's the other thing is we'll sit down at dinner and we've been told what the topic is for that
Mhm.
night. And we'll say, who came up with this? I mean, whose idea was this? And Michelle is so organized. She's so amazing. She
Exactly.
keeps us honest. She looks
Yeah.
back and says, well, Judy, this
Okay.
was
Yeah.
you and Lisa that said
See,
this.
here's the sheet
Okay. And
with our
there's our
suggestions
votes.
and our votes. Yep.
Hmm. And it's
And
just,
so, this month we're going to be writing about what is your astrological sign and how does it match who you are? I have absolutely no idea
I'm
what
going to have
my
to research a
astrological
little bit
sign
about who I'm
is.
supposed to be on that one so I can write about it intelligently. But yeah.
I mean, I've heard say, well, I'm a Virgo, so that's the way I am, and it's
Mhm.
like, well, I'm a Sagittarius. What does that mean? I have no idea what being a Sagittarius means.
Are you really a Sagittarius?
I am. Yes, the art tree.
Wow. There's that you research that one. That's a real interesting sign.
Well, see, I think that was a whole 70s thing, and I'm just a
Mhm,
little bit too late for that. I mean, it was
mhm,
important to know your sign, but
mhm.
I have no idea what being a Sagittarius means.
Well, do you
I know,
remember Chris? Chris was
yeah,
a Sagittarius,
okay.
and
And both my
very.
sister and my husband are Taurus, the bull.
And I'm an Aries. I can. Oh, your sister, the Taurus. That's just perfect for Craig and Michelle.
It
Craig and
is.
Michelle get on each other, but they're so much alike. That's
They're
the
bullheaded,
problem.
right? Isn't that kind of a Taurus?
Pretty much. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. And my son, I think, isn't Matthew? Is he a Gemini? I'm not sure. Gemini is a
Well,
twins.
what we're getting
Right.
at here is I don't know what we're going to write about, but remember when last year we wrote about our spirit animal? We had
Oh,
so much fun with that.
and
Um,
I think that was one where I said, "Who came up with this one?" Yeah, and it was like, who knew? But it was such a cool writing.
yes, and even last night or when we were at the meeting, I said when we were doing the poetry one, you are the poet, the three of the rest of us are not. But that was I said, you know, we really, I mean, I love the fact that we have a constraint. We have a set published date. We don't have more than a week to fluff that after it's
Mm.
done.
And we
And
can't procrastinate when we're writing it because we've got 15 minutes.
yes, and so you get your first thoughts down, and then you have something to kind of play with the next few days until it's your published day. And we've had so many pleasant surprises. I
We
think there
really
was
have.
one time
We
Michelle
really have.
wrote like 3 sentences, and that
Hmm.
was it. But in 2 books worth of writing, you know, for one of the writings to be 3 sentences long,
That's amazing.
I think
That's
that says
amazing.
something.
And the four of us, I would honestly say, I don't think any of us considered ourselves natural writers.
Right. Mhm.
I think we all had beginnings. And,
Mhm.
I know that my sister I heard her say many times, "Oh, I can't write." And she's probably one of the best of the writers. And she's got this really, she can be sarcastic and snarky, but she also finds really fun words to put things together. And
Well,
I
and I
just
think she
admire
also
that.
says, I don't care what they think,
Hmm.
and she puts down what she wants to put down. There have been a couple of times it's like, ooh, do you really want to say it that way? Ooh,
Uh-huh.
a
Ooh,
little
ouch.
sharp
Yeah.
there. And she's like, that's what I want to put it. It's like, okay, yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
That's your writing. And
Mhm.
I think if I had to vote on a most improved, I would say it's Michelle.
Oh,
She
yeah.
takes everything that
Mhm,
people give her as far as constructive
mhm,
feedback,
mhm,
and she puts that into her writing, and the next one is better, and the next one is better, and the next one. And it's so fun because
mhm, mhm.
now, I mean, she has that organized mind,
Yes.
and she just definitely can take that input and put it to work for her better good. And I think that's such a huge asset. So I think that's a pleasant surprise. I
Mhm,
mean,
mhm,
and I also say that you need a judge other than yourself because you're
mhm.
never going to think you're good enough.
Mm.
As maybe, I mean, maybe some people go, "Oh, I'm damn good," maybe Jack Patterson or James Patterson. I can't even say his name right, but some of those people must know by now that they're pretty good. I mean, Stephen King admits he's pretty weird, but there's different ones that. But I think it is a pleasant surprise that,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
each of us have totally different styles,
Yes. Yes, exactly.
and we have totally different ways of putting things on paper. But you know what? There's not one of us that's right and the other ones are
Mm-mm.
wrong. We're all just different. And that's what makes the world go round. That's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah, and have you ever looked back at your own journals and like from a specific time and thought, "Damn,
Hmm.
that was really good. I really wrote that well." Um,
I have done that. And I've also done that in a situation where I was organizing paperwork that I wanted to hang on to from a job that I'd had.
mhm,
And I'll look back at a marketing letter I wrote. I'd look back at a letter I wrote, an apology letter, something like that, and I'll read it and I think, Wow.
That was
Did that
good.
well. That was
Yeah, yeah.
nice, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna hang on to that. Of course, I'll never find it again, but are you surprised that I'm gonna hang on to that?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I know,
So we
yeah.
do have, we are, and I think you can only have pleasant surprises when you are willing to have bad stuff. Or I was going to say shitty first drafts. That's something that,
Who says that?
I think teachers say that you have to be willing to have shitty first drafts.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I've thought about it 100 times in teaching first graders to write. Because even first graders want to be good before they
Mhm.
put their thoughts down on paper.
Mhm.
And encouraging them to just start writing is
A challenge.
is a challenge, yes. And it's a
Mhm.
battle that I helped kids fight for 30 years in the classroom.
For
And
sure.
it was so awesome. And I remember at the end of the school year, handing their journals over to their parents, saying, do not lose this. This is so
Mhm.
precious. And
I still have the little books that Matt wrote when he was in first and second grade.
mhm,
And they're
mhm.
books about his interests at that time. One
Yes.
was about trains, and one was about space, aliens and stuff. And I mean, and I read them and I think, they're brief, but they're really good. They're really well thought out. And today he is still an excellent writer. So, um, and I've talked about it on the cards that he gives me for Mother's Day and
Mhm,
Christmas. I
mhm.
always cry, and
Mm.
I
If you
used
don't
to do
cry, it's
that.
not well done. Yes.
I know, and
Mhm,
so it's like,
mhm.
be willing to pull those thoughts out and be a beginner, have a playful attitude, and you're going to be open to some super surprises, right?
Yes, yes, you are. So, okay, Judy, it's been lovely talking to you.
I've
Next
enjoyed it
week, I have
too.
absolutely no idea what we're going to talk about, but we'll pick up where we're left off.
We'll figure it out.
We will. Okay.
Love you. See
Love
you
you too.
soon.
Okay,
Bye bye.
bye-bye. Okay, come on.